Hello, everyone. My name is Father Alex Steinmiller. I come to you with Passion Pause through the kind support of St. Paul the Cross Retreat Center. And we're enjoying this summer, although it's been wet. And I know for many of you, I'm sure it's been a real inconvenience and maybe even a disaster. So we keep you in our prayers. Whenever I do these videos, I think providential. It's providential how what I say is heard. Maybe what I don't say is heard. That's providential. And there's something about God's working through this space that's very important. Obviously, God has no barriers. So the fact that we're at a distance doesn't matter. It's all God's providence. And this weekend, I'm very conscious of how you and I leave Mass. How we leave Mass. Now, I'm sure you see people you haven't seen for a long time. You greet them, welcome. Is it possible that the seeds that you just heard in the homily are somehow within you? Is it possible that the body and blood of Christ that you've received within you is for someone else this week? And I want to talk about that just a minute. And we're going to use the example of Amos, St. Paul, and Jesus. First of all, Amos was a tree surgeon. He was a sycamore tree landscaper. That's what he did for a living. And was very conscious of the world around him that was in not very good shape when it came to honoring God and keeping God's commandments. So suddenly, God sets Amos on his feet to go and preach prophetically to a stubborn people. We've heard that before. Amos is reluctant. He doesn't want to. And finally, he does. You know, feeling-wise, how often do we feel reluctant to take that extra space, to say that extra hello, to go that extra mile? It's tough. But again, God is behind it. And one of the things about Amos is that he trusted the voice of God. Even though his own voice was saying, come on, man, you don't need to do this. He trusted the voice of God and acted on it. Secondly, the body and blood of Christ sends us. I can't describe in words the tremendous power of the flesh and blood of Christ within you. Read the second letter to the Ephesians in today's Sunday liturgy. Contemplate it. It's full of blessings. The whole reading is full of blessings that you and I have within us. And the question is, do I believe it? And am I willing to achieve it? Do I actually go through with it? And that's so key. You know, I don't know how often you have an opportunity to bless someone. You should. Each one of you should have the opportunity. Maybe a grandchild. Maybe a son or daughter. Maybe your spouse. A blessing is so important. It's the power of God. And so often we hold back on letting this power of God go through blessing. And I bring that up because it's one of the conscious ways that you and I can spread God's word. Just blessing someone. And also letting God penetrate our imagination. And I'd like to end with imagination. Imagination contains space. Space. And right now we have space. It's electronic space. Nevertheless, God is working through these airwaves. God is working through what I'm saying to you and what you're hearing. And in that space, there's always grace. And we know what grace can do. Grace has done so much for us. And God has so much more to do for us. So grace and space is the blessing. Space goes before you. So wherever you leave, go after Mass, wherever you go, be conscious of that space that God goes before you. And be conscious of people who enter into that space, maybe momentarily, or maybe for a while, where something happens between you and them. I make God's word and God's will real when I intentionally accept and take seriously that space that God has between you and me, between you and your spouse, your family, between you and the stranger. That's the grace. And so I ask you to keep that space in front of you and keep God's direction in front of you, just as Amos did and as Paul does. I'm so glad to be able to pray for you and pray for your ministry, whatever it may be. Take it seriously and take note of the people who enter that space. It's always grace. Have a great weekend. Thank you.